Let's first get rid of the non-issues of the debate. I'm so tired of listening to terrible arguments, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, this idea that, you know what, there are certain tenets that you are absorbing, and therefore, you must be conceding that it is to an extent compatible to the system we have right now. She brings up, for example, minimum wage. First brought up, by the way, by Malthus in his subsistence wage, where we need to pay these people something so that they will return as workers the next day, and finalized by Milton Friedman in his lifetime income hypothesis, by the way. Or what about the conceptions of luxury and sin taxes? These are Piguvian in nature. By John Pigou, ladies and gentlemen. These are taxes made to equitize the system, created by capitalists because they know it is only the rich that can afford luxuries. These are created, self-correcting mechanisms, ladies and gentlemen, that only exist in a capitalist system. And I'm going to show you why in my issues discussion later. That is the reason why, because of the non-concessionability of these communists, they can never exist in the Philippine democracy. No, thank you. First, let's talk about the non-issues. The idea that capitalist systems can be extreme. Never mind that she never really gave us an example. But I'll give you one. Monopolies, right? Monopolies are extreme, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, capitalism corrects that, right? When there's a monopoly, governments should step in. There can be pop priming. There can be protection for industries, ladies and gentlemen.
Point.
Capitalism corrects for the extreme forms of itself. But no thank you, when you have communist extremism, ladies and gentlemen, we argued that it is insatiable. And she conceded to it implicitly. Why? She said that communists will never stop demanding for concessions for as long as, because the rich will only give you concessions insofar as they do not feel threatened. What does that mean? That means that the only time the communists will be satisfied is if everyone has an absolute base equality, that the rich don't exist, ladies and gentlemen. Because for as long as the rich are not threatened, ladies and gentlemen, then they are willing to give us concessions, and these people will never be satisfied with that. So they will only be satisfied if we threaten the rich, if we threaten the elites through, I don't know, maybe the NPA, ladies and gentlemen, maybe through violence. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, it's so hard to swallow that they say that, you know what, there will be concessions that will satisfy the left side. We believe that that is why concessions with them have always ended up, no thank you, devolving into bouts of violence. Have always ended up devolving into non-negotiable areas where the only contest is through, hiding in the mountains and pot shots at the government. That's why we believe, ladies and gentlemen, please keep quiet. That's why we believe, ladies and gentlemen, that communism cannot, in this particular instance, especially that aspect of communism, the aspect that negotiates, can never be satisfied with any of the negotiations that exist in, by the way, a democratic society, which is based and founded on the capacity to negotiate between interests of people that we have to leverage out. We cannot absolutely favor you, but we have to give you something that you each want. But if we can prove that one side will never stop until the other side is completely exhausted, ladies and gentlemen, that is, we believe, a no thank you, non-negotiable issue for those sides. But let's take it to the final solution, right? Let's take it to the logical extreme, ladies and gentlemen, because a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So what happens when these systems fail? When capitalism fails, ladies and gentlemen, when ideological acclimatization fails to happen, when people disagree that capitalism is the way to go, what happens? If you don't agree, for example, that you need competition, a monopoly will emerge. And the monopoly will incentivize competition to come in because there's so much profit to be gained. So it's a self-correcting mechanism. You don't have to impose your values on other people for it to work. But in communism, if people don't agree to work together, if people don't agree to work as a society, ladies and gentlemen, it can never work because some people will work harder while other people will be free riders on that labor. So the only way for communism to work is if somebody imposes that you work this much, that you have a quota of this much rice, which is, by the way, what happened in the Great Leap Forward in China, by the way, that resulted in millions and millions of deaths of the proletariat. Is that the protection that they want on side government? So in the end, ladies and gentlemen, We have a self-correcting mechanism of capitalism, and we have a necessary imposition system when it comes to communism for that system to work. And democracy, ladies and gentlemen, is all about having a choice and having that choice be recognized, right, ladies and gentlemen? So in a system where bahala ka, you can choose what you want and it will correct, and it might bite you in the ass, but it's your fault. Versus, you must do it this way. It's our way or the highway, because if you don't work with us, then you're against us, ladies and gentlemen. That is why communism is incompatible with Philippine democracy. But fine.
Stop misrepresenting us. The goal is not always to please all these types of communists. What we told you was whether or not they are happy, their ideas are good for society, because at least the rights of the poor are not dependent on the whims of the rich.
You're running away as well, because you're not telling us that their ideas are not being heard because they are being marginalized, right, ladies and gentlemen? You're not telling us that, oh, my ideas are not being represented in policies like the minimum wage, which exists, like luxury taxes, which exist, ladies and gentlemen, because we believe that even if we're marginalizing them because of their violent activity, ladies and gentlemen, because of their tendency to go to the extreme logical conclusion, we believe that even then, all of the positive values that can extract from them also accrue to capitalism and that kind of perspective, ladies and gentlemen. Because that perspective, like we said, has an avenue to correct for the problems that it creates, while communism has to rely on imposition. Which is, by the way, what my first speaker said, when she said that's why the ultimate hierarchy that it creates will ultimately be the death toll and the death knell of communism. Ultimately, what's the point? We believe that all of their benefits we've co-opted. Because all of the benefits that they want, right? They want it to be heard so that we can have these issues become policy that affect the lives of people on the ground in society. We have systems that do that because we want to develop human capital. We want to make sure that people can come to work. We want to make sure that we have a thriving social economic status. That's why we need minimum wages. That's why we need luxury taxes, because we need social risk distribution, because it is a self-interested activity for everyone in the archipelago. But they have never told us, ladies and gentlemen, why the end goal, right? When things fail, when people refuse to cooperate, our activity is we let them alone because it's self-correct. But them is they encourage violence. They encourage resistance. They refuse to cooperate, ladies and gentlemen, because cooperation itself is seen as submission, as giving up to the system, ladies and gentlemen. And that's nothing that they will never accept, because it's something that leftists can never swallow. At the end of the day, we must marginalize them, because, ladies and gentlemen, marginalizing them is what helps us correct what otherwise would have to be an imposition to the system. Thank you.